Hey friends, Jeff here with a new episode of Conversations Life Science Leaders Aren't Having. Today we welcome Liz Cormier-May. Liz is a woman who wears lots of hats. She is partner and chief commercial officer for IV Bioholdings, CEO of Mammogen, which is part of IV Bioholdings, and president and CEO of Dragonfly Data Ventures. Who Liz is to me is energy and passion. In everything she does, Liz is always thinking about those that she's serving and creating a world that is fit and suitable for her kids, my kids, your kids, future generations. This energy just oozes out of Liz throughout our entire conversation. We touch on some, you might say, controversial topics that challenge the norms in the life science space, but she does it with heart and she does it with love. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Liz Cormier-May. Liz, it is so exciting to have you. I know we've faced the challenge of schedules, but now is perfect. I know it. I'm always of that belief that whenever something happens is the perfect time. So super grateful for you to set aside this time for the podcast. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Yes, scheduling is sometimes the hardest part, isn't it?
It is.
But I'm thrilled to be here.
So you just heard a very brief intro of who you are to me. I'd love for you to share with the audience what you're up to in the world as we get started.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So first and foremost, I'm a mom and a wife. I have two beautiful children. Thomas is 9 and Violet is 6. My husband, Tommy, is the only reason I can do what I do. He is probably the world's best stay-at-home dad. And that's who I am personally. I spend this time of year in hockey rinks and gymnastics gyms, watching the kids do what they love. And when I'm not doing that, I am involved in two hugely important ecosystems. One is called IV Bioholdings with my partner, Marty Kaiser, who I believe you have talked to in the past. And at IVBH, we are focusing on early disease detection across 3 really important disease states: early detection of lung cancer, early detection of liver disease, which, hey, by the way, affects 1 out of 3 of us, and most people have never even heard of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So it's a really important mission. And then Mammogen, which is our women's health company, which I originally came into the ecosystem to run, and I am proudly wearing my Mammogen gear. And Mammogen is all about early detection breast cancer right now. And more importantly than that, or perhaps just as important as that, is we're really focused on closing the gap between science and our community. And we do that in a number of ways, all wildly different than how diagnostic companies normally operate. One embodiment of that is what I'm wearing. We launched Mammogen Marketplace, which right now is where people can go to get all types of Mammogen logo gear, but 100% of those profits go towards either research or building our community partnerships. And it is a wildly important mission because there's a huge and dangerous gap between what it feels like to be a patient and what it feels like to be a person. And we're trying to close that gap and give women the resources they need to be the best versions of themselves before diagnosis, throughout treatment, and after. So that is IV Bioholdings. And I will say probably I am most proud of the fact that we are executing unlike any other diagnostic company. It's something I've always wanted to do. And Marty and I made a commitment to one another early on to make sure we hold each other accountable for that. And up to date, we sure have, and I couldn't be prouder of it. And then there's another ecosystem that I am co-founder of with a wonderful bioinformaticist named John Healy. And what we're doing might sound very different than the diagnostic industry, which is where I spent most of my time, but they are so intertwined. And this is a company called Dragonfly Data Ventures. And what we're doing here is, for the first time ever, creating a platform where people, patients, consumers, and I will argue we are all 3 of those throughout the course of our day, where we can assemble all of the wellness data that we create on ourselves, whether it be through wearables, right? I've got my Oura Ring, I've got my Apple Watch, or health apps, or 23andMe results, or test results. And it all comes together in a really exciting user experience where, one, we can control our data for the first time. And by control, I mean own it. Tell us, decide when and how it can be used, who can see it, when they can see it. You should be able to take it back when you want, and you absolutely should be able to participate in the monetization of it. Because make no mistake, Jeff, people are making a heck of a lot of money off of monetizing our data right now. And we do not ever get to participate in that. Forget the fact that we don't have any idea who's touching it and controlling it. We're not feeling our impact on the world around us. Dragonfly Data Venture solves all those problems, and it does it through a really fun and enticing app experience. And that might sound really different than building diagnostics, right? It's not. It's not. It's all about enhancing the human journey. Early disease detection improves outcomes. It saves lives. Being able to own and interact with all of the virtual pieces of ourselves that exist in the world today does the same exact thing. And it allows us to feel our impact, to communicate with people around us, to give back to the communities that are important to us, and to own an asset that up until now, we're not allowed to own. And so that's what I'm up to.
Yeah. And you know, who you are to me, and I said this in the intro, is energy and passion. It just comes through your voice. For those that are watching the video, your presence, and I'm always so curious about what's up with that. Like, why? What is in your story? Because here on the show, we like to really understand the story of our guests. We want to know what they think and what people should be talking about. We're going to get to that here in a minute or two. But what's behind this energy and passion about the space that you found at this stage in your life that you're in?
Yeah. That's a really great question. And I think I can answer it pretty easily. So I started as a scientist. I love science. I love everything about it. When people say they don't like science, it just baffles my mind because it's involved in every single piece of our life, right? And I spent a lot of time in the lab, and I was building drugs to cure cancer, but I felt a million miles away from the patient. And that's really where I always wanted to be. I wanted to understand the patient experience and their journeys, and how can we make it better? It might be a new drug, but it might not. And how can we understand what's actually going to enhance that experience if we're not talking to the patients? That's a big part of the reason why I got to into diagnostics. And then I realized, well, heck, nobody's doing it here either. Companies don't take the time to sit and talk to the patients that they're supposed to serve. It's the first thing I do when I start or join or launch a company, is spend a tremendous amount of time talking to the patients. And when you do that, you get such a powerful infusion of enthusiasm and urgency. And why the hell are we doing things the same way they've always been done? Why is incremental improvements enough? Why are people questioning the need for what is so obviously necessary? And that is a big part of the reason why I operate the way I do, because I feel a tremendous sense of accountability to the 500 breast cancer patients and survivors that I've talked to over the last year and a half. Because I feel like if nobody else is questioning the system and doing things different and executing uniquely, then who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? And I'm fine being the one that sounds different in a room, or looks different in a room, or raises her hand and says something so wildly and seemingly uninvolved or unimportant, yet it's central and nobody's talking about it. That's, I think, probably what makes me the way I am. And then secondary to that, man, we have a lot of work to do. And if I don't leave this world a better place than the one I'm living in right now for my kids, then I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, there's so much there, Liz. And again, I'm just wildly curious. I'm going to ask why once more, and just to go a little bit farther back into your story. You talked about your passion for science. I have a 14-year-old who's in honors biology and really can't understand why she has to do this at this point in time. So, when you were sitting in biology class,
Yeah.
however many years ago, what fueled what were the seeds to the fire?
Yeah. Curiosity and amazement were always what fueled my scientific fire. And for me, actually, it started with biology. I ended up being a chemist, but biology was really there was more unanswered questions than there were answered ones in biology, especially human biology. And as far as we've come, we still have so many things existent in science that we have no idea why they work, or no idea how to solve the problem, or gosh, what is the link between mental health and physiological genomic health? Nobody can really answer that question comprehensively. And it's a massive need in our world right now, right? It's part of the reason why Dragonfly Data Ventures is so important. But for me, it was always, well, then what? Well, then what happens? Well, how do we know that? Well, what if we look here instead of here? Maybe the answer isn't where we're looking. So it was always this just immense curiosity and like the what next that kept me interested in science. I always felt like every class, every grade, every experience was a cliffhanger, and I needed to do the next step to try to see if I could answer the cliffhanger from before. And I'm so grateful to say I can't. There's always a new cliffhanger. and I think that's what makes science so wonderfully amazing. And think about it. Can you think of another machine that is as well designed as the human body? I mean, I can't think of anything else other than nature itself that does so many things at the same time, that supports the amount of systems a human body takes, that can adapt the way we adapt when something stops working, when something breaks, when disease states pop up that shouldn't be there. Our body reacts, and it knows how to, and it knows when, and sometimes it needs help and sometimes it doesn't. But that to me is just wildly fascinating.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna have Maddie watch this after I've been begging her to listen to her dad's podcast. Maybe this is the one. So
give Maddie my number. I'll get her hooked on science.
I will. I mean, you're going to where the spirit of this podcast, which is conversations that leaders aren't having. And, talking about data access, you mentioned patient as consumer, and getting rid of some of the silos that exist. If there was one of these, and you can talk about more than one, but just as a starting point from where we've already been, of one thing, if you could put under the heading conversations life science leaders aren't having but should be, what would be that one conversation?
I will tell you exactly what it would be. And this is coming off the heels of multiple conferences I just attended over the last few weeks, a number of really important strategic meetings. Here's what people aren't talking about. Everybody wants movement. They want to be able to detect cancer at stage 0 from blood. They want to be able to access data when and how they see fit. They want to keep people well, but that is not where investment dollars are going. Investment dollars are going to the safe bets right now, and have been for quite some time, other than COVID. If you weren't investing in COVID for the last 2 years, you were investing in the areas of medicine that already have solutions, that already are making a quantifiable, measurable difference. I get it. People may view early detection or data empowerment on a consumer patient level as new or early or risky. But you know what? Those also have the largest returns. They also have the biggest opportunity to make an impact that this world has never seen but needs desperately. And I gotta tell you, there are some brilliant minds in these sectors, brilliant minds who are fighting for investment dollars versus things that already have freaking solutions. We need to start to look at how we invest in these areas through a different lens. And there are so many people who are out there saying they do. Most of them don't. They don't. They want later stage, established, commercialized, revenue producing. That's what they want. They want the easy bet. So until we start actually talking about this and having these conversations in a way that's not polarizing or accusatory or anything negative about it, we just need to talk about it. This is what's happening. How do we put our money where our mouth is and move together as an industry forward with the full realization that, yeah, some of these might fail, just like all of the later stage companies might fail, right? But until we actually start to pump financial resources into all these areas that everybody agrees are important, we're not going to make a difference.
And you didn't say the word business model, but it's in everything. You were talking about the business of drug development, or disease intervention, disease detection, the business model of which is a probably $1 trillion or plus business. And that, like it or not, that has a major influence in everything that you're talking about and why we're not having the conversations. So what needs to change? What needs to change about the business model so that what you described, the conversations, are actually going to have legs and weight and have dollars ultimately behind it?
I think partnerships are the key. Partnerships between what the market views as established players with the earlier stage companies. And there are a lot of reasons why that doesn't happen now or doesn't happen well now. But partnerships, some of them that might even seem like they don't make sense, sometimes they really do. You have to look at the larger picture. You have to start to view what a customer looks like through a different lens. Or redefine where and how we can make money. And those conversations are really important. And you know what, Jeff? Sometimes it means you have to share the revenue with your partners. And that is an uncomfortable process in industry right now. I don't see why. I think abundance beats scarcity every single time. However, we have to start having these conversations so that people's tolerance for doing business in new ways is something we talk about freely and something that it goes into every single investment decision, every single product development decision, every single commercialization decision. Partnerships make things happen faster. And until the sense of competition dampens a bit and you start to view people as partners and where can we find the mutual benefit, I don't think much is going to change.
I talk to a lot of CEOs, both as part of the show and as part of my work. And these are good-hearted people. People that are driving these organizations are, man, I can think of 3 that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks, and there's tears in my eyes because I feel their heart. And the thing that I'm hearing you say, as a participant in this ecosystem, in this industry, is that despite those good hearts, that the model is ultimately driving where the funds are going and where they're coming from and how that works. And so it feels like there's some courage that's required here.
Yes. There is.
Feels like could you just talk about what are those brave decisions, those courageous decisions that are required to start to move the needle in the other direction?
Well, there's two types. There's the types of conversations, and I'll take it through the lens of a CEO. But if you'd like me to do it through a different lens, please let me know. One, I will tell you, we are surrounded by wonderful people in these industries. I have met so many wonderfully kind, humble, unselfish CEOs in the last year, more in the last year than I've ever met, I think, in my career. People who really do want to make a difference, but they're afraid to have the conversation with their boards. If they're a publicly traded company, it's not just their boards, it's the market, it's Wall Street. Every decision they make, it impacts their yearly compensation, potentially their position. So sometimes being courageous is too big of an ask for people. And I get that. It's not going to be for everybody. Sometimes it can't be for everybody. But even those people can help somebody who is in a better position to be a little bit more courageous. And that can be, again, through a partnership, through an investment, through networking, through opening up an entirely new customer base to those people. It doesn't always have to be you taking the uncomfortable, awkward, or potentially dangerous step with your board or with the market. You can do that in other ways. And, it's for the rest of us who aren't accountable to Wall Street, who still have a board that we're very much accountable to. It's a job in storytelling. It's helping, it's convincing them the same way we convince people to give us money, that maybe making a decision that puts revenue out for an additional quarter ultimately brings in 3 times as much revenue in the next 36 months, right? So being courageous is part of it. Being a storyteller is the other part of it. Keeping in mind, we all have bottom lines. We are all accountable to investors who gave us their money, who expect us to hit certain metrics. But it's the way we go about hitting those metrics. It's the creativity we infuse into that. Again, I'll use Mammogen as an example. I'm blessed. I have a very supportive, wonderful board. But they don't always see my decisions or my vision as the right thing. Launching Mammogen Marketplace, why the hell would a diagnostics company launch what is right now an e-commerce venture? Well, I'll tell you why. It's massive brand awareness to a level that I could not afford to do otherwise. We are creating our eventual customer base who has a level of support that I've never seen. We are infusing our ecosystem with partnerships who are coming to us when they see that we're executing differently. And I found a way to do it that takes nearly no resources through a wonderful partnership, right? So these are all totally uncomfortable decisions for the average diagnostics CEO. Nothing about this. I haven't talked about the product yet, right? But it's all about the product. It's all about finding non-dilutive revenue. Mammogen Marketplace does that. It's all about creating an eventual customer base. And in this instance, it's patients. Can I tell you how many patients and groups and advocacy folks have reached out to me when they saw what we were doing? It's about creating our name and our brand and our mission. Our mission is not just to detect breast cancer earlier. In fact, that's not our mission at all. Our mission is to enhance the patient journey for all things women's health. Sometimes that might mean early detection breast cancer. Sometimes that might mean equipping people with the tools that they didn't even know they needed as they go through their journeys. How do I talk to my oncologist? How do I interview a doctor? Should I be interviewing a doctor? How do I find my right care team? What should I expect the first time I see myself after a mastectomy? Nobody's talking about these things, not in our sector. We need to build the bridge between where innovation is happening and where patients are existing. For us, Mammogen Marketplace is the first step in that because it fuels non-dilutive revenue that we can then infuse into our product development, infuse into our community and partnership-based efforts, and get aligning agendas. We're aligning agendas. We're aligning product development and our customer base. We're aligning physicians who are going to be using this test. We're aligning our missions. My mission isn't just to create a revenue positive cash flow in Mammogen. That's not my mission. My mission is to change the way we treat women's health issues, and the revenue will follow.
Mm-hmm. I can't help but ask you to speak about this, your use of the term. Maybe you said patient a couple times. The term you're using over and over again in our conversation is customer or consumer.
Yeah.
And for healthcare, health-related life science CEO, that's new. I talked about the 3 or 4 or 5. I could go back to probably 10, probably all the way back to when I talked to Marty a number of months ago. He and you are the first ones, or the only ones I can think of that have used those terms. Could you speak to us about that terminology as opposed to using the term patient?
Yeah. Well, first, we're living in a world where medicine as a whole is becoming very consumerized. And I think that could be a very powerful change, because that means that we're empowering us, normal people, to participate in our healthcare journey. In this situation, our customers, our consumers are patients. They are patients. To me, patient comes with a connotation of I'm at the mercy of my care team. Whereas consumer and customer comes with, I have the ability to make a discretionary decision. Maybe I don't like my care team. Maybe I want a different care team. Maybe I want a better care team. I certainly want tools and options to equip me to make those decisions. That for me is the difference. We are living in a world where we are all, I said this in the beginning, we are all throughout our day, a patient, a consumer, and a customer at some point. Every single person, every day, we take on those 3 personas. The veil between those 3 personas is becoming thinner and thinner and thinner. And I think if we do this correctly, that is going to be a very powerful step towards improving healthcare. That's going to take a lot of doing, and data is central to that, and early detection is central to that. And diagnostic companies and therapeutic companies participating in things other than just product development is central to that. So yeah, I am using the term consumer and customer quite a bit, because that is what we are. A consumer and a customer has a decision, the ability to make a decision, the ability to execute on that decision. And until that is true as a patient, I will continue to use the terms consumer and customer, because I think they're more powerful. And patients, the shift of power needs to be more towards my doctor and me think I need a mammogram. I don't care what United has to say about it. I deserve and want a mammogram. And I don't care that I'm 35. I don't care that I don't fit into the guidelines. There's a reason I'm going to get it. Who are you to tell me it's not clinically necessary? Right? That's a difference between a patient and a consumer. A patient says, oh, crap, I guess I have to wait till I'm 40 to get my mammogram. A customer or consumer says, no, I'm going to find a different way to make this happen.
And there's the word democratization of healthcare that feels, and so, people like you and I in our households, we could say United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't care what you say. I want such and such care. But what about the consumers, patient / consumer / customer? In those lower socioeconomic brackets, how do we give them the same ability? Because we talked before about the business model of big pharma. We can't have that conversation without also having the business model conversation of insurance providers. We named just 2, but there's dozens of them. So nothing against those particular 2. So how do we create that same paradigm for those in a different socioeconomic situation?
It is a really great and important question. I'll give you my two answers. And I'm not saying these are the only two, but this is my contribution to being able to do that and close that gap. One, as an innovator on the product development side, there are many different platforms and technologies we can do. Marty and I at IVBH made a very conscious decision to choose the most inexpensive. Why? Because the world doesn't need another $1,000 to $3,000 genomic test. Nothing against tests that cost that much and are based on next generation sequencing, but it's not always necessary. We chose PCR. Maybe not as sexy of a platform, but it does the job, it does it well, and it's 1/10 of the price. That's one way. And yeah, it means we're gonna have to sell more as a company to reap the same amount of revenue, maybe. But yeah, that's a distinct decision we made, because we don't want the cost of this test to ever preclude somebody, or these tests, I should say, preclude them from getting it, even if their insurance provider says, nope, sorry, you don't meet guidelines. If the doctor says you are necessary, it is necessary. You are an appropriate patient. And cost should never be the hurdle. So there's some innovation decisions you can make. And those innovation decisions don't always align with how do I get revenue quickest, easiest, soonest, right? Okay. And then there's the other side, which is more on the Dragonfly data venture side, which is how do we create passive revenue or income streams for our users? And this gets back to something I said, you share the revenue. As a company, we share the revenue anytime somebody allows us to leverage their data in any way, shape, or form. They participate. So that means people who may not be able to afford their mammogram, or hell, afford their penicillin for their kid, now they have passive income that they're generating just by being an active part of the ecosystem. And that's important, because if I had to put my dream into one sentence, it would be, I want to create ecosystems that keep the patient, consumer, customer central to every healthcare decision, a closed loop, self-funded, payer-independent healthcare system. We will always need payers for catastrophic, right? Dragonfly Data Ventures isn't going to make anybody $300,000 a year to pay for an awful car accident, but it certainly can help people make money to access things like imaging, like prescriptions, like mental health copays, those things, your day-to-day. And that means we have to share the revenue. And I will gladly do it every single time, because it's just another way I can ensure that we as people I love, the people I don't know, people in communities that might not look like mine, have access to what they need to be well.
Yeah, you're on the cutting edge, and the phrase that you care so much that you don't care. That's a phrase that is coming up for me, is that your care about those 500 patients, consumers that you've talked to over the last year, about the world that you're leaving for your kids, for my kids, that you care so much that you don't care. You're just going to say what needs to be said and decide what needs to be decided. Would you say that phrase encapsulates your approach to your work and your life?
Yes, I would. I think that's a very fair statement. And it means that I have to have a lot of conversations where people tell me no. That's okay, because I am actively finding the people who might not even have known that a mission like this was important to them, but then they hear it and all of a sudden it is, and they are supporting me, Marty, my co-founder at Dragonfly, John. There are like-minded people out there, and some of them are investors and some of them are partners and some of them are family and friends. You need it from all angles. But yeah, I would say that's an absolute dead on representation. I care so much that I don't have the freedom to care what other people have to say about it.
Mm. And you started us off by talking about your two boys, right? Two sons?
A boy and a girl.
Oh
Thomas
boy,
and Tyler.
okay. So you talking about your kids. What what's their, I mean, they're young. They're
Mhm.
not even preteen yet.
No.
What do they see, or what are the signals that you get about what they see and
Mhm.
what their mom is up to in the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because somebody asked somebody asked my daughter, so she's 6.5, she's in first grade, and somebody asked her what her mom does for work, and Violet said, "My mom asks people for money." That's in through her lens right now. That's what she sees. She sees me actively traveling, zooming, asking people to fund these missions. And that's okay. I think that's a powerful vision of what it is I do. If you ask her what I'm asking people money for, she will tell you something like, my mom's job is to help people. I don't think she knows exactly what I do. She knows it kind of has something to do with science because my son thinks it's cool that his mom's a scientist, or used to be. I don't feel so scientist anymore, but that's always kind of discussed. But I don't think Violet knows a whole lot more than that. I'll tell you, she definitely knows that, as she would say, I'm the boss. And that I love. I love her seeing that doesn't matter what you want to do. If you love something enough to do it and you're willing to go out there and find ways to make it come true, you can do the same thing, whatever it is that's important to you. She definitely sees that the commitment to run through walls to make something happen. My son, he's a little bit older. He's 9, so he understands a little bit more. And he sees, I think, he's most in tune to the good days and the bad days. When I have a bad day, he's very inquisitive about what happened that day. Mommy, why do you look upset? Why do you look mad? Why do you look frustrated? And I think that's really important because some people have this glamorized idea of what leading companies is, and there's nothing glamorous about it. Even
Mhm.
when you're a $22 billion company, there's not a whole lot of glamour involved there. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. Listen, I miss a lot of
Mm.
what my kids do, more than I would like to. I'm blessed that my husband is there to pick up the slack that I leave,
Mm.
because you can't do it all. You can't be everywhere. I do my best, but my best is not perfect. So they see the sacrifice that it takes. They feel it, and when I think about it making them sad, that's heartbreaking. But if I'm not out there doing these things, I cannot leave a world that deserves the rest of their life for them.
Mm.
We have to create a world that is worthy of all of our wonderful little people. And that is not the world we're living in right now.
Mm. It, I'm sure you have those moments where you can take them aside and teach them and they're at their level, but it feels so much, and not just for them, but I'm feeling instructed by watching you and hearing you, that you're modeling a way of being, of leading, of serving, that that isn't that's inspiring. And I know that's not your objective, that's not your mission, but you're modeling a way of of walking in this world, that is instructive for all of us. And I'm so grateful for that, to be able to witness you and how you walk in the world.
Wow. Thank you. That might be the nicest thing anybody said to me in a really long time. I
Mm.
appreciate that.
Oh, you're most welcome. We're going to wrap up the conversation here. We could probably talk for a lot longer about lots of different things, but we'll just end it for now with the question that we often ask at the end of these episodes. And then it's, if you could go back to when you were on the bench,
Mhm.
before you were running two companies and doing everything you're doing today, if you could go back to her and pull her aside and have a conversation with her, knowing what you know today, what would that conversation entail?
I would pull her aside and say, find your voice earlier.
Mm.
Be comfortable in being the only one that has an opinion in the room. Be comfortable with being the only woman in the room. Be comfortable with saying, no, that is beyond the boundaries of what I am comfortable with. And stick up for yourself. If I could have learned how to do those things earlier, I would be a better version of myself right now.
Wow. Because the version that I'm witnessing is pretty amazing. So I can't even imagine had you found yourself, found your voice and the comfort in that voice sooner. But really wonderful advice that I think all of us, even today, I'm wondering, so this is kind of weird way of framing this, but
Okay.
like if you could take that advice right now, I think you said you're 35. So if you
No,
could,
I'm 41. I wish I was 35.
you're 41, whatever age you are right now. If you could hear that advice right now, what would be different after this conversation?
That's a great question. Even right now, I think I would be more adamant about how important it is for people to start investing differently. And I would say it louder in more rooms to the people who have the wallets. And believe me, I do that, but I could be louder. I could be more direct. I could be more powerfully polarizing, and I don't mean polarizing in a bad way. I could do that better.
So the coach in me is going to ask you, so will you do it?
Yes, I will now, because I just said it out loud.
And it's recorded.
And it's recorded. So,
I'm going to send it to Marty right after we're done. I'm going to say, hold Liz accountable on this. Well, Liz, this has been so much fun. One of my most favorite conversations for the podcast. I really, really am grateful. And I'm excited for the commitment you just made. I'm excited for the impact that's gonna have. If those that are listening want to know more about you, what you're up to, where can they find you?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. I am just starting to get into social media. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm doing my best to give people really kind of inside looks into my daily life. Some of it personal, some of it work related, some of it just what's important to me. And so please follow me there. Teach me how to do it better, because social media is still a little bit uncomfortable for me. So I'm really trying to get into that, because it's such a powerful way for me to interact with the world that I'm trying to serve. So I would say those are probably the two best places to find me, message me, get my attention. Those
awesome.
two. Yeah.
We'll put all that in the show notes, and we'll also reference IV Bioholdings as well as Mammogen. So thanks so much, Liz.
Oh, no, it was my pleasure. Thank you.